So let's talk about growth engines. Every church has a growth engine that God has given it. And so we want to take a look at this growth engine that every church has. So you're getting this sheet around, and it has the cylinders on it. So how many cylinders in this engine that's going up here? 4 cylinders. So we got a 4-cylinder engine. So here they are. So cylinder 1 is worship. I mean, 'cause that's what every person who thinks about a church, what do they think about? They think about the worship. Because they know even at the end of the world in Meru, Kenya, everyone knew that Christians do 3 things. They meet together on Sundays, they pray, and they sing. Everyone knew that. And that's what and they also know 3 universal words. Amen, hallelujah, and Coca-Cola. So that's what people always know. So our worship is our most visible expression of who we are. It shows our values. It shows our attitudes. It's just the most visible place out there. So we got to pay attention to it. So here is how you check how that cylinder is working. You have to somehow ask your people, how often are you inviting others to our worship? How often are they asking people to come with them? And that's really key. It's to come with them. In 2005, when we were just starting Kairos, some of you were there. We had a meeting in St. Louis, a summit for 3 days. And we had Tom Rainer there, and he shared with us some of their new research at that time. He said 80% of people would say they will come with you, and he said 76% will actually come if you will go and take them with you. So you got to take them with you. So how do you find that information? How often do your people ask others to come with them to your worship? So you got to figure out how to do that. So that's what one of these things we're going to ask you to do, is to find out how you're going to get that measure out there. Here's something else with worship. What do you have? Do you have a worship service, or do you have a worship experience?
Working.
Okay, well, I'll challenge you then to go and look at all of your printed material and see how often you use worship service or use worship experience. Because people don't want to go to a service. I mean, you go to a service to get married or get buried. You don't want to go to a service. You want to go to where you experience God. Because when you experience God, life is going to shift. It will never be the same again. We want to offer worship experiences. And so now we're not asking, hey, how did that go? We're asking, did God show up? Because when God shows up, the world changes in people's lives. So we do worship experiences now and not worship services, because people want to experience God. And if your people are coming to your worship experiences and they are experiencing God, they will invite their friends, their peeps. They will do it, man. There is no doubt about that. Cylinder number 2 is groups. So have you heard, how many people it takes for a relationship to stick? 7. So how do you know that every person who comes into your frame of reference to your church has the opportunity to gain 7 significant experiences, and it's got to be within 6 to 8 weeks? How can they get 7 significant relationships developing in those first 2 months? So how many new groups are forming, and how many new people are connecting with those groups? If you don't have new groups forming, you probably don't have many significant ways for people to get those significant relationships. Bible classes can work that way. They don't always work that way, but they can work that way. It depends on how we organize our Bible classes. And so that could be a group, but it may not be a group. But groups are important. They need to be on the way to having 7 significant relationships in the first 2 months. If they don't get that, they probably won't hang around. So we got to find the ways to do that.
You talking about personal relationships?
Yes. Yeah, personal friendship relationships. People they start to connect and click with and share with and know their names and know their kids, know their dogs, those kinds of things. That is really key. When people know your pets or you know their pets, they've really let you into their life. So that wasn't just a throwaway. That was really important there. Cylinder number 3 is spiritual conversations. How often are your people having sit-down spiritual conversations with others? Sit down's the key. Do you remember that? Do you remember that, Darren, when Gary said, have you sat down with them and do this? It doesn't count. This is what Gary said. It doesn't count if you're standing up. I'm going, why not? Because when you sit down with them, you have said, I want to give you some of my time. You are so important. I want to sit down with you. Whether we're going to do it right now or whether we're going to plan a time, I'm going to give myself to you. So we are practicing the hospitality and blessing of our time and our attention if we sit down with them. And so that's how we teach our church planners. You got to sit down and have these spiritual conversations with people. So how are you going to do that? How are you going to start measuring that? How are you going to start training your people in your pews so that they feel comfortable having spiritual conversations? Darren has just walked us through the spiritual journey guide. It's just really a powerful piece, and it's only those 3 questions. But to learn how to use it so it becomes normal to us, that's just key to do that. So that's cylinder number 3, spiritual conversations. Cylinder number 4 is service, and Darren just walked us through that. And our measure is not how often we're going to do it or how many places we go or how many people we give food to or how many bottles of water. Our measure is how many people who are not part of us are taking advantage of being part of that service event that somehow we're helping to organize. That's our measure. How many people are coming and serving with us? Because when they're serving with us, we get to rub shoulders with them. We get to have just conversations that occur. We get to answer questions. We get to ask questions. We have those relationships with people. So it's not how many people you serve in the soup line. It's how many people are serving with you in the soup line that makes a difference. And that's the 4 cylinders. And I've really racked my brain to come up with a 6-cylinder engine. There might be one, but man, these are so powerful to do. And so I want you to kind of begin to think about how you could gather these measures. Here's just a couple of other pieces that go with this. One is you're not going to be able to go home and just immediately hit all of these cylinders. You're going to have to really start working on them one at a time and letting them start take place. And so it's going to take, this is a 2-year project to develop a growth engine that is seriously well functioning. It's about a 2-year process. And once you get that 2-year process going, then it's really going to start kicking in. And remember that chart that we talked about, that some churches at 2, 3, or 4 years, but all of them that were really working on this in 5 years, they were starting to experience their growth. And then it would just really shot because they had developed their growth engines and now they were working at a good rate. So keep that in mind. So we do the StratOps, strategic operations. Gina, my wife, and I will go in and work with churches on it. And this is one of the pieces we use. It's a performance driver. So performance driver is what drives us to actually achieve the goals that we want to achieve. And performance drivers help us get there. And we use, here's some way these things work. So we've got these circles. Circles is the system. It's the system. It's the organizational structure that's in place so that, you know what a system is? It's something that you don't have to do yourself because others are doing it because they know what to do and how to do it and they feel confident in it. Then you have a system that's going. So if you're having to do it, it's not a system yet. If you can help others do it and it doesn't make a difference who that person is, then you got a system in place. So the color is how well developed the system is. So if it's green, it's a really well developed. If it's yellow, it's there somewhat, but there's holes, gaps, things don't work, there's cracks in it. If it's red, there may not be anything in place at all, or it may just be so poor it just doesn't work. So that's the colors. And then we're going to play golf. So 5 is very poor score, 1 is a great score. So those scores are how well the system is working or being used. Both of those pieces, how well it's working, how well it's being used. So if we can have a green, but we're not using it, so it's down here sitting on the shelf, then it's not doing us any good. It's a 5. If it's a 3, it means, yeah, we're getting some good out of it, but it's, it could really stand improvement. 1 means it's just humming and thrumming along. My sister taught me that thrumming thing. She was taking a course at university on sailboating, and my folks had a little tiny sailboat. I mean, it was like 8 feet long and about 4 feet wide. And she said, let me take you out and show you what I've learned. And so Gina, who is about 6 months pregnant, and myself and my younger brother and my sister, we get out and we're going out in Puget Sound, and we're heading in the bay and around. And pretty soon she starts going clear across Puget Sound. And there's a storm that comes up. There are 4-foot swells. We're in this little tiny boat. And I said, we got to go back. And she said, I haven't gotten to that part yet. But we were really thrumming, man. We did make it. We didn't drown or anything. So that's where 1 is. It's really working. The arrows are either it's getting better or it's deflating. So you're getting better or you're deflating, and that line that just goes across means, no, we're really not doing anything with it. It's just sitting there. So this is how we're going to give ourselves a report card. So in these next few minutes, I'd like you to do this at your table on your 4 growth engines. So I've given you the pieces, given you the different ideas for it. And so that's all we're going to do here. But then tonight, I'd like you to work on the rest of it. So I'd like you to think of, for each cylinder in your growth engine, what strengths are already existing? What are growth areas that you can immediately see? And then rank this cylinder. So you're going to rank them 1, 2, 3, 4. Which is the one that right now and for the next 6 months is the most important one for you to address? That's number 1. And then put what you think would be the second, what you think would be the third, what you think would be the fourth. So you're going to rank order them. So that's what I want you to do tonight. That's going to be your homework. Think through your growth engine cylinders for strengths, growth areas, and then rank them for right now in the next 6 months. What's the most important one for you to address? And just rank those. Because you can't do it all at once. You know how you eat an elephant, right? Yeah. So this is our elephant. We're just going to take one bite at a time, one cylinder at a time. So for the last 10 minutes here, let's work on assessing these 4 cylinders for your church.